Greetings! In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can create your own teams or classes, how you can add and remove members from it, and a few other little tips and tricks to help you get started. Obviously, this is now the third or fourth tutorial, so I would suggest watching them in order because I won't be reteaching things that you'll need to do by this point. I'm going to be showing you how to create the team using the desktop version, so it'll be similar but potentially slightly different if you're on the app, but the basic principles will be the same. So you'll need to be logged into Teams and you'll need to be in the Teams tab itself. So if you're currently looking at activity or anything like that, come back to the Teams tab. And if you're in a team like this, so I'm currently in 7Q, you need to go back to the big list of teams. So you can do that either by pressing all teams, or you can double click the Teams button that will take you back to your list of teams as well. Now my list is obviously quite full because I'm slowly putting my classes on. Yours will probably start off relatively empty. The button you're looking for here is join or create team. Now, general principle here, different apps, whether you're on your phone, whether you're on your tablet, whether you're on a different type of PC, buttons might look slightly different or they might be in slightly different places. Use your eyes, find your button. So this join or create team button, I know for example, is a different color and it's at the bottom on some people's PC. You've also probably noticed that my version of Teams is black. That's because I've set up, in one of the settings, you can change the color of it, and I don't like being hit in the face by bright white. So just, I'm giving you the general kind of instructions. You're going to have to use your initiative to kind of see your particular button in your particular circumstance. And that tip goes for all the other videos in this series. So I'm going to press join or create a team. You press that, and it gives you some other options of teams that you can join, but you're obviously looking for the create team button. Let me just make sure that is on the screen behind me. Oh, it's just behind my head there. Brilliant. So you press create team and it's going to give you some options. Now, probably most of the time you're going to be setting up a class, which would be the left-hand side, but there will be other times where you might be setting up a department group, you might be setting up a particular community, extracurricular club, etc., etc. So this is where you choose that particular option, and I'm going to press class. And we need to give this team a name. Now, it's tempting to kind of go, oh, well, I want to create one for 8Q, and you put 8Q, and off you go. Now, wait. 8Q will probably have a team from history, and maybe a from RS, and maybe in another subject. And if all of those teachers name that team 8Q, the pupils aren't going to know which team they need to go in for which lesson. So let's give it a name that is a bit more descriptive. So in this particular case, we could go 8Q history, but let's make it even easier for the children. Let's go history 8Q. So I'm going to start with the subject. I can give it a description. I'm not going to, but I could write something like, this is the location for live lessons with Mr. Cox. And if I know that the lesson's always going to be at a particular time, maybe I could put it in there, but you know what? I'm going to leave it blank. Now, let me just go advanced just for a second. You might want to kind of remember this and come back and look at it later, but there's another button here that says create a team using an existing team as a template. So let's imagine you get really good at Teams and you create a class and you add loads of things into that class, lots of channels, lots of users, lots of really cool features, which you don't know yet, but you will in the future. And then you want to copy that to make a new one. That's the button where you would do so. So you could set up 8Q with all the bits and bobs that you want, and then you could then use 8Q as your template for 8R, and that's the button that you would use to do so. We press next, and we've now got the team. Now what we do here is we search for students, and we're going to put the whole class into the box. Slightly bad news for you here, Microsoft doesn't know your classes. Firefly does, and iSams does, but those two are connected, and Office 365 isn't connected in the same way. So you're going to have to manually, just close down my emails, you're going to have to manually put your students in by searching for them. And it isn't as straightforward as you might think. So you can just start typing a surname, you can just start typing a first name, but probably the most reliable way is to go first initial surname. So what I would do is get your iSams register up on one side of the screen, Teams up on the other, and kind of put them in. And I'll demonstrate this using teachers rather than students, just because I don't really want to put students' names up on the screen if I can avoid it too much. But if I say I wanted to add Miss Snaith, I might start going H, and it'll bring me a list, and I might be able to see it there straight away. If it hasn't come up yet, I might then go SN, and look, weird, it's gone, we didn't find any matches. I've noticed that Teams does this. Sometimes you'll be putting in something which is correct, but you'll have to either add more or less letters to get it to go. So if I keep putting in Snaith, eventually it picks it up. So to be blunt, you're going to have to fiddle a little bit to kind of find these. But then you put them all in the same location. So as you hear, if I add Mrs. Dedman now, so if this was a class of 17, I'm going to put them all in this box and it's going to extend down for me. And when I'm ready, I'm going to press add. If you did want to add students and teachers to a group, this is where you could do it. So say you're in a department, say the languages department, and you wanted to add your class and your head of department, you put them in separate boxes and it gives them slightly different powers within the group. So I'm going to press add and it's done. And so if I want to add any more, I can do so at this point, but we should be fine. And I'm going to press close. And behold, your team is created. Here we are. And if I go back now to my big list of teams, I can now see I've got History HQ, which I can go in and out of, and this is what it looks like. Now, we haven't added anything in here yet, and we haven't had any conversations, and we haven't done anything up here, so it's bare bones, but it's there. So let's just tweak one more thing before we finish, and then I've got a couple of other little tricks to show you. Let's change the team picture to something that's going to be relevant to my subject. So this is history, so I'm going to probably grab something like that, but it might be good to make it subject relevant, and if you change the settings at the top, you may well see some particular images that might be more or less suitable to your own, but grab something that suits your fancy, suits the class nicely, and then press update. And if you want to change it at any point, you can do so. I mentioned this in a previous video, but whenever you see ... that means there's something else here, more options to find, so you can always click it and have a look and see what's there. Now, excuse me, let's hope that's not corona, but more likely it was probably just flapjack. That ... there is where you go, oh, I've just realized I've missed out this particular student, or maybe you realize you've added someone that you shouldn't have added. So you could either add member here, maybe even leave the team. Supposing someone adds you to a team and actually you don't want to be part of it, you can leave the team there. You can edit the name of the team if you make a mistake or you don't think it's well put together, and even delete the team, the nuclear button, if you realize you've made a mistake and you really want to start over. But I'm just going to click on Manage Team because this is where I might rearrange members or remove members. Now, those members of staff are staff, so it's put it in this category called owners. If you added students, they'll be down here in members and guests. So let's just click on Miss Snaith here, and I'm just going to change her to being a member so you can see that students would appear there. If you can't see them, can you see there's a 1 there, but there's not a list? Just click on it and it will open that up. And you can see here, there's like one of those little kind of drop down arrows. The arrow's pointing that way and then it's pointing down. So if you can't see them, open it up there and you can see them there. You'll also see now Miss Snaith is no longer an owner. I can also now click this button here to remove her from the group. Now, I'll show you one last tip here that I'll probably remind you of later in a future video, but there's also a button here that says mute students. So if Miss Snaith had been causing problems in class, and I wanted to leave her in the group, but I didn't want her to be communicating anymore, I could mute her there either temporarily or permanently, but I'll talk more about that later. So, quick recap. We now know how you create a team. We now know how you should name it helpfully to add an icon. We know how to add and remove various members. We know how to add teachers, and I think that might be it for this particular tutorial. So come back in the next one and we'll be learning what will be next, how to chat with your class. Pretty straightforward, but we'll do it in the next video.